A dyslexic filmmaker's experience. So what was school like for me? Well, primary school was absolutely fine. I was pretty good at playing with sand and water and fast enough to keep myself out of trouble come kiss chase time. But I can't really remember struggling at all, or fully until maybe the last year of primary school, appreciating that I was behind with my reading and writing. Whereas secondary school, it really did negatively impact on my self-esteem. Virtually from day one, we were seeded and obviously down in the bottom set. So I left school without any O-levels and shrunk as a person, I think. I would do things like play hockey in the gym rather than play football out on the field because I was embarrassed to be in the bottom sets. I didn't want anyone to know. Would hide in English classes and hope that nobody asked me to read. I remember one time I was asked to read and it was just humiliating. I mean, the words blurred. I couldn't read half of them anyway, and the teacher insisted on me finishing that, which pretty much was awful. But I wasn't bad at drama. I really enjoyed my sport. So I did have other areas where I could play to my strengths. But like I say, I left school without any qualifications. So how did I find out I was dyslexic? Officially, I found out when I was 29. I was doing a foundation to art course at Swindon College, and had a psychologist run through the tests with me, and it came out that I was dyslexic. I had heard the word bandied about when I was about 15. I think my parents had gone to the last parents' evening before I left school, and I know it had been brought up then. But I mean, what are you to do? There wasn't any exam dispensation or no support or anything. It was just a word. I can remember my dad saying, "Oh, it's just a middle class word for somebody who's just not very bright." So that's how I found out. So how would I define my dyslexia? Well, in two ways really. I understand and appreciate the strengths in neurological processing that I have, so I'm pretty good at visual tasks and graphic design, drawing, filmmaking, that sort of thing. I'm good at remembering my way back to places after I've been. So those would sort of be the areas of strengths, but with those come the areas of difficulty. So I've got an appalling short-term memory, still a slow reader. I'm not a bad writer, but I really do need a word processor in front of me. So yeah, my dyslexia is a mixture of sort of strengths and weaknesses, and obviously the weaknesses, you're identified, dys meaning difficulty, lexia meaning word, you're identified early doors and seen to be somebody with a learning difficulty and a disability and all that sort of thing. So that tends to have an impact about how you view yourself. But I've tried to, over the last 10 years or so, since finding out, or since leaving university, I've tried to sort of focus on ability, I suppose, and encourage that in others. How did I cope with being dyslexic? Well, I think I just took myself out of positions whereby I'd been under stress, so I wouldn't be going for jobs that meant that I'd have to have written a lot. So I ended up veering towards, before I went to university, veering towards jobs like postman and shop work, and then care work, which I really enjoyed and gave me a real insight into the human condition. So I sort of worked for 7 years with adults with special needs or learning difficulties or learning disabilities, depending on what label you want to put upon somebody. But yeah, it's pretty much coped with my dyslexia by not putting myself in positions whereby my dyslexia would become a stress to me. If I'm to think about what reaction I had from friends and family, initially I think the people were pleased for me that I'd found out officially that I wasn't just daft, but I was dyslexic. I think at times perhaps people would have preferred me to put it to bed by now. Do I tell people I'm dyslexic? Yes, pretty much. I think if the opportunity arises, I mean, one would hope I wouldn't go into a shop and announce it without anyone asking me. But I do think it's important, particularly a lot of the time I've worked as a community artist, in educational settings, and I think that's the reason I'm doing it. I think for the next generation of dyslexics that come through, so they don't feel that it's something that they should hide, something that we should be proud of after all. Is dyslexia a disability? Well, within the text-based society we live in now, yes, definitely it is a disability. It's a disability under the Disability Discrimination Act. Would I want a cure for my dyslexia? No, I definitely wouldn't. And really the concept of cure in itself is really, really quite insulting. I know a lot of the industry or field, I suppose, in academic terms, of dyslexia very much focuses in on the deficit, the medical model of disability, and I work from the social model of disability. My disability is a big part of who I am, therefore I don't want it cured. Thanks all the same. So what has happened since 2003 and the first set of filmings for me? Well, I've still been very active on the issue of dyslexia. I've written articles and made films and delivered multi-sensory workshops and talks and all sorts of other things. It's been hard work in as much as the main players in the field, I think, are quite happy to talk about the issues impacting on children at school, but haven't really got much of an angle at all on adult issues. So I definitely do for myself. I can spot it more in other people, I think. Hopefully I've learned to sort of focus in on what I see in other people in terms of their strengths and encourage them to focus in on those. Okay, I'm going to change this question a little bit from was I happy to be involved in this project, and I've got to say an overwhelming yes. It's been a little bit of a roller coaster for me 7 years after the event to go and meet people, but if I was impressed by everybody in the film 7 years ago, I'm doubly impressed by the openness and braveness of all the people involved. I think it's a really big thing that you've done, guys, and in listening to and re-listening to and editing down the bits and pieces that you've said, it's brought tears, but then it's brought wry smiles, and I think I've learned as much from you guys as I've learned from anywhere. So thanks. So have things changed for the better or worse for me? Well, I'm guessing they're pretty much the same, to be honest. I've still worked as hard as I can to get myself a stable job. I found that really difficult. I was an arts officer down here in Devon for a local district council, and unfortunately I had to leave because although I said I was dyslexic when I started, I was just dumped into an office on computer software that I'd never used before. So it was an open office with lots of noise. It was an arts officer's job, and I'm a community artist. I'm pretty good at that, but I wasn't doing any of those sort of hands-on meeting people. I had no budget. It really was just an admin job they wanted doing, and like I said, I didn't receive any support, so I had to leave. So I'm hopeful for the future, but I think what I've learned from working with the guys from the video, the lessons is to sort of avoid job situations that are potentially stressful, and for me to start practicing what I've always preached, and that is dyslexia, focus on ability. So yeah, 7 years time from now, hopefully I'll be a successful painter and still active on the issue of dyslexia, but perhaps not all consumed by it. Okay, cheers, thanks very much, bye.